My name should be on the list. Please check again.
I don't see your name, sir.
Well, maybe you spelled it wrong. People like to put an E or an I at the end for some reason. Oh, hello there. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Nerdy Photographer Podcast, and I'm the host, Casey Fatchett. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, in addition to sharing entertaining and informative photography and business-related content, I also go on missions with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. Right now, I'm trying to attend the Galactic Adventurers Association, or as it's affectionately known, GA. There's an amazing lineup of speakers this year. There's Mal the Magnificent, Oof the Overwhelmer, and the Marginally Deaf and Destroyer of Worlds, but only ones where bad guys live. Really looking forward to hearing them speak. They just can't seem to find my registration. Speaking of speakers, my guest today on the podcast is longtime friend of the show, Leighton DaCosta. I think this is his sixth time on the show. Leighton is here to talk about his upcoming trip to WPPI in Las Vegas. That's the Wedding and Portrait Photographers International, as well as why you should have insurance for your photography business, and a discussion on how he's currently implementing artificial intelligence with his business. Be sure to stick around for my talk with Leighton right after the break. Hey, any luck finding my name?
No, perhaps someone else made the reservation.
I think F2.0 filled out the paperwork, so check under either Tom A. Aquinas or Hubert Jass. Hello there, Nerdy Photographer listeners. Do you have a website or do you need one? Well, let me tell you, you should be using SiteGround to host your website. I used different hosts for many, many years, and I dealt with so many problems. Terrible support, slow loading speeds, all sorts of attacks on my site that I couldn't deal with. But when I switched to SiteGround, my problems have gone away. I haven't had to worry about my site once in the 5 years that I've been using SiteGround. And right now you can get 80% off hosting and a free transfer of your website. Hosting can start from as low as $2.99 a month. $2.99 a month. That's so cheap, and it's so good. I wouldn't recommend it to you if I didn't use it myself. Head over to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/SiteGround. That's nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/SiteGround. Or you can click on the link in the episode notes and get over there. 80% off hosting and a free transfer. You're not going to regret it.
I was going to get the Rode mic, but I learned that with the DJI, when you have the transmitter on, that there's RF interference with the Rode mic, and you can hear a hiss. And you know as well as anybody that in audio and in post, that hiss.
It's real hard to get rid of.
Yes. So
especially from the earlier episodes of the podcast, definitely know that that's the case. Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett, and today with me is longtime friend of the show, multiple times as a guest, Leighton DaCosta. Leighton, welcome.
Welcome once again. It's nice to be here once again. Obviously, you couldn't find anybody better. Here I am.
It's always a pleasure to have you on, and I mean, like, things have gone crazy. We've scheduled a lot of appointments lately, a lot of recording sessions. So there's going to be tons of episodes, but I'm really glad to have you back. You're headed to WPPI, which I think is this episode is going to come out just as WPPI is about to start. So what are you doing when you're heading out there?
So WPPI is coming up. That's Wedding Portrait Photographers International, for those who do not know. Used to be, and I'll be honest and straightforward because I'm not a pitch man for them yet. And I don't want to diminish that, but it used to be like the Super Bowl or the Daytona 500 of the photography conventions. Back in the day, before the pandemic, as we like to say, we had with WPPI, Photo Plus Expo in New York, you had PPA, Imogen, Shutterfest. You had another one out here in California. I think Sync and all those are still going on. Say again?
Imaging Expo? Imaging?
Imogen is like it goes between Atlanta and I think Tennessee, maybe one of the spots. They rotate. But Photoshop World. I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah.
And so
That's I think mostly virtual for the last couple of years. I think
it'd be nicer to go back to Vegas because that gives me another reason to drive up to Vegas. So there, this is probably going to be my seventh or eighth, maybe ninth time coming to WPPI. And this is a different WPPI, or expected to be a different WPPI. There's a lot of value things that have been in prior WPPIs where if you were a photographer and you didn't know if there was any value to going to a convention like this, you can go to WPPI for a plane ticket and a hotel fare and a expo floor ticket, go to the image judging and watch and get so much knowledge from the panels on the image judging, and then go to the expo and learn on the floor because people are trying to sell stuff. So they're also teaching you how to do stuff and see what the state of the industry was.
Yeah, you can pick up a lot of, like, my experience at conventions, you can gain a lot of knowledge if you just walk around and watch people doing their, like, oh, this is what, like, they'll have somebody with, oh, here's some lighting gear or whatever, but somebody's doing like a little workshop right out there on the show floor, like on how to light stuff, whatever. You can pick up all sorts of like information as long as they're doing that kind of thing. They like Photo Plus used to have that sort of stuff too, but it's from what I've heard is sort of devolved into just sales. They're just, all they do is like they're trying to get people to buy stuff, and that's about it. There's not as much floor show stuff going on,
and that's unfortunate because one thing I liked about WPP. So here comes a shameless plug, and it is what it is.
No, you're here to plug stuff. Go ahead.
One thing I've always liked about WPPI is that vendors like Graphic Studio out of it, they try to be business partners with you. That's their approach of sales, is that they make money when you make money, kind of the Vidal Sassoon approach.
Right.
If you don't look good, we don't
look good.
Their method has always been how to create sales or how to increase your sales.
Yes.
There are vendors that I have seen in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years that, have blown up because of WPPI. If you're sorry, that was kind of loud. If you are a fan of the Nerdy Photographer and you have seen the Nerdy Photographer shorts, you know that a real wedding photographer comes slinging with the double straps.
The double strapped, double harness.
Right. And, I got my first Holdfast gears, the Moneymaker, I think back in 2013. I think right around there.
Yeah, I think I've had mine for about 11 years.
Limited edition. It is the Python with the bridal leather on, and I usually only use it when I do weddings.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because I do have a wedding coming up this weekend in Vegas. So what a great way to start off WPPI by doing a wedding. And it's an awesome. 80s wedding, or no, 90s wedding. It's a 90s wedding. So I did buy some of my early 90s because WPPI has an 80s night. So I have my Run DMC, my shell-toed Adidas, the tracksuit. I got a couple of Cuban links out there.
Oh, man.
Even the furry Kangol and the glasses. So, I'm going to look like I was going to do the whole Nino Brown, New Jack City type thing. I was like, no, I'm going to be out there working and shooting. So
I'm enjoying all of this, man. I might have to come out and do I'll be one of the Beastie Boys next time.
There you go. But what I like about WPPI is this: it allows photographers from many regions of the world, but really of the country, that you get to see and fellowship with other photographers who are on all kinds of levels. I remember having conversations through WPPI because of with Joe Breesink when he was big with Pictage, or Gary Fong, back in the days, Matthew Jordan Smith, Gregory Heiser, I think has been some. I think a couple of years ago they had. Oh my gosh, what's Joe's name? Oh, Joe McNally.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Rand, his cousin Rand, right?
He's the map guy. Joe's the camera guy. Rand is the
map guy, right? Guy. And so and if you see Joe, say, hey, how's Randy doing?
Yeah.
Don't like that. Don't say that.
Don't say that.
And so it gives you a chance to fellowship with a lot of these, the superstars. And now, full disclosure, I think WPPI was probably one of the organizations responsible for the 2008 to 2013 superstar era of photography.
Yeah.
Which brought about your shoot down your show it. No,
yes.
I can't say that loud.
Shoot it.
Right. But I think what was nice about that, it made wedding photography exciting. And it's, for all the downsides, it is like watching WWE or / WWF. The moment that Austin 316 said that he was going to kick your A, right? That changed the whole entire WWF and made it get brought in the Attitude Era. And now it's back to the old storylines of Mean Gene, we'll come for Hogan, right? Right.
Cream.
Get back to that.
Rises to the top.
Ooh, you might not like it, but you will respect it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. So things I'm looking forward to next week in WPPI. So unfortunately, I don't like the format of how they have done a lot of the classes. In the past years, there was a couple years where you can do a master class and get it for the day, but you would upgrade your ticket, so to speak. And once you upgrade your ticket or your pass, you could choose one of those tracks, and it was all inclusive. Now they have so many different tracks, which benefits the instructors, but as a student, it comes across as nickel and diamond. And I would prefer that if they had like a $500 or a $700 super pass, as opposed to here's a $99 course, here's a $99 course.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing happened, and it's happened to me at WPPI, it happens. You go into a rock stars course, excuse me, hopefully that didn't come up on the camera. Now you go into a rock stars course and you don't get any value out of it.
Right. And you've then spent, $100 on that, as opposed to, I bought my pass to see whatever I want. And it's just like, oh yeah, I went and saw that, but it wasn't, that fruitful for me. Maybe it was good for somebody else, but I didn't get that much out of it. I'm just loving the analogy to the Attitude Era. That is so spot on. Oh man, I wish that they had entrance music back then when doing that. That would have been so good.
So when I'll tell you what, when if and ever I choose to speak or if I ever get selected, I have to apply for a speaker to get selected. So I think that's how that works, right?
Yeah.
Just because we should do a panel one year in WPPI, and then when we come in, we should have entrance music play.
Yes.
When we come in.
So the smoke cannons, they get the CO2 cannons blowing smoke out. Yes.
And while I still can, we can run down the aisle while I still can. I might only make about 20 feet, so it can't be a long aisle. So.
Well, that's why you got to bring the folding chair with you so that you can stop and sit on it. Halfway down, you're like, whew.
What you can do is like Leighton, get the table. So let's see.
I'll bring the step ladder, but we're just using that to get better shots. I gotta get up, get a better angle. I think that I've heard a lot of stuff around a lot of things about the pricing this year, that people are not happy with the pricing for various reasons. Because of that, there's also they dropped the price after a bunch of people had pre-paid. There's some people paid $270, and then they're like, oh, it's $90 to get in. That's all it's going to cost you. I don't know the exact. I personally don't know the exact.
So it was. Let's say this, because I, fortunately or unfortunately, keep this up with WPPI. I get in on a military veterans rate, which is $65. So I'll take that. But what happened was, and I don't think people should be upset by this. So numbers. Let's talk numbers a little bit. So the actual price, I think, is like 289 or 299. You're right, somewhere around there. And or you could be even 249, but I think it's 299. And you do your early bird pricing of 199. And one of the things that WPPI does that when you buy a full platform pass, you do get a guest pass or a buddy pass along with that. So if you and another photographer are going, then it's really like if you do early bird, it's $100 each. The challenge is that we drop the price just like in business when sales are slow.
Right.
And so they did the flash sale for $99. And if you did it for the $99, and maybe even going on right now as we speak, if you did the flash sale for $99 with Flash 99, it still allowed you to get a buddy pass for $99, which is like $50 each. Now, if you had emailed WPPI and had asked them Whiskey Tango Foxtrot,
yeah,
and said, hey,
I spent
I paid $200 and something dollars, they would have refunded you the difference. They have been very, very forthcoming about that because they understand that is the other side of the numbers, which I heard about 2 weeks ago because they do a Wednesday live on YouTube. They had just hit over 5,000 platform attendees. Even though I think with expo tickets and everything, it's like 11,000, but for the main convention.
5,000 is pretty good.
You say again?
5,000 seems pretty good for where the last 2 years have been.
Yes, but if you think back to way back when you and I both had, well, when you had hair and I still have hair, so they were, I think the max in 2007 or 2009, 1 year they had 44,000 attendees. Right. And so to figure that in less than 14, 15 years, you're lost almost 85% of your actual.
Yeah.
Does that reflect so much on the convention, or does that reflect so much on the
state of the world
industry?
Well, state of the world too. I mean, like when I think they only had when they first came back from COVID, I think they only had they had less than 5,000. I think.
Yeah, I went to the August WPP. I went to that first one, which was amazing because there wasn't that many people there.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my camera. less competition. Thank you, Fuji.
Yes, giveaways. Less people there getting tickets for.
They're going to give away 10. Hey, so, and I'm still not a Fuji ambassador. Shame on you, Fuji. And shame on you, Nikon, for allowing Fuji the opportunity to try to take me away. So like I said, I'm looking forward to WPP. I'm looking forward to they've had some late entrants, I guess, from Nikon and from Canon. I don't know if Canon is going to be Canon used to have one of the biggest booths. And the one good thing about WPPI I used to recommend to photographers is go to the expo, because if you're looking to buy gear, the savings that you get from the WPPI expo would often far outweigh the cost
of going
flying to various. I got my Canon Pro 2000. I think I saved over $1,400 on a Pro 2000 buying it off the floor than buying it straight from Pictureline or Autorama or whatever. And hopefully B&H is not a sponsor, because that's why I had to just make sure. And but I say that to say that, hey, it is worth it just to go for one. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, you can always get a pretty good deal on the floor, and if you're looking to spend money, like you're not going like, oh, I need to get something I'm going to spend $200 on. No, like if that's all you're looking to spend on gear, then you're not going to save money. But if you're looking to spend a few grand on stuff or more, like you can definitely save money that by going to the expo.
My pro photo gear, I think I saved at the time, maybe 20% buying my pro photo gear, which is significant.
That's like $100,000.
I mean, that's only for the speed lights, though.
Yes, that's just the speed lights. That's still haven't gotten me over to pro photo yet, but it's if they want to give me some stuff, they want to sponsor the show and throw me some gear, sure, I'll try it out. Those are a significant sum of money. So are you doing anything? You said you were shooting a wedding when you're out there. What else have you got planned?
So we are also doing a photo shoot out there by Nelson Ghost Town. Doing a little bit desert shooting.
Nice.
Little fashion shoot there. There are a lot of There are a lot of photo walks that WPPI hosts, and those some of them are free, but most of them are paid for. I usually just get with a couple of photographers and say, "Hey, let's go grab a couple models, book them from the agencies." And if four of us put out $200 or $300 a pop, sometimes $500 a pop, that's $2,000 budget that covers clothing and model makeup and everything, and it's a good time, right? It's a really good time, and we all get images. I think for Vegas, a lot of guys look forward to the parties. I'm old. I go down there, and now I don't go to the casino because I know I'm going to lose money. And if I'm going to drop $50 into a casino, I'd rather go down the street and go get a $50 cigar. and so
our tastes change as we get older.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. But I think one good thing about Vegas is that regardless of whether you're 8 or 80, I think there's something there for you to do. And speaking of it, during Thanksgiving, I took my son and my family out there. And my son, who's 8 years old, took me to go see the Hoover Dam and did the dam tour. And, took him out to see 7 Magic Mountains, which are the pillars, the rainbow pillars that's out there. So I'm looking forward to do that. As you see right now, because normally, I think last time when we did, I was in my house, I was in my room. So I'm in a new headshot studio. The purpose of it is to really actually be able to do headshots at any time, and don't need a lot of space. It's just enough space for me to
long enough to be able to shoot
long enough. But I have I think it's either a 20-foot ceiling. So eventually I will have images or paintings all along the wall, or photos along the wall, so that they're designed intentionally to be sold. And when you have different sizes, I'm a big fan of. So like this was a couple. I don't know if it shows up well because of the glare. Let me do it this way.
I can see it.
All right, this was a couple, and this is a sample piece that I got from a vendor, which is pretty good. It's one that you're acrylic type thing. But this will go up on the wall, and they'll come in and they ask the same question like we all know. How much is something like that?
Right.
And they're designed to drive sales.
Yeah.
And it's funny how in 2023, so in 2023, here we are in the year of the rabbit, 2023. And in the past year, we've gone through blurry images or out of focus images.
Out of focus.
Too blurry.
And then green, whatever, like really horribly color balanced images. I will just say it flat out as like different. There were different ones, there was yellow and like green and whatever, just not.
And the new trend, I think I saw this in Rangefinder, the new trend is probably, I'm going to drop a name that most people probably listen to this podcast may or may not know, but the Dennis Reggie on JFK Jr. wedding on-camera flash.
Oh yeah, that's been going on for a while. That's been going on for about a year now. Like
the direct flash.
Yep, and people have been asking me when they kind of, do you use flash? I'm like, yeah, and they're like, well, it doesn't really look like it from your pictures. I'm like, oh, you're talking about, do I do like the paparazzi like direct flash? I can, sure, if you want that. Yes, we can do that look. But yeah, it's not the one that people when people are asking you. It's sort of a step back from off camera. People are doing this sort of Dennis Reggie. On camera. I always think of it as kind of even what's his name? He doesn't always do it. Greg Williams, because he shoots with a Leica and he has just like a tiny little flash on his Leica that he uses when he does all those celebrity events. He's been doing that for a long time. But currently, otherwise I kind of think of it as like an 80s and 90s sort of look.
Like I've done it, and I will say this. There are certain events, certain weddings, certain entrances, certain dresses, certain tuxedos, certain people that, I'm going to get this look. And I'll do it with an off-camera strobe to get that same kind of paparazzi look, not on camera. but it's. I told this to somebody this past week. I said, 10 years ago, maybe even 15, 10 years ago, there was a difference between a $500 photographer and a $100 photographer. And there's a difference between a $500 photographer and a $5,000 photographer. Now, then we went this phase where the $500 photographers got really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
And they rivaled the $5,000 photographers, but there weren't that much. And the $5,000 photographers said, hey, well, we don't charge for photos. We charge for experience, right? We're giving you services and experiences. Okay, great. But the $100 photographers are still there. Now, I've seen some stuff in the past maybe 2 months or 3 months that are so rudimentary that it's like, man, is this a style, or is this are people just being cheap, or is it like whatever? And it is becoming accepted to have this kind of look. It's like we're so used to bad photography that we no longer know what good photography is.
I think that there's like it is a weird kind of backlash. There's like a sort of like, when off camera became really popular because it's like the price kind of went down because you weren't like the wirelessly, like we had off camera before, but you were using like studio units and a Pocket Wizard or whatever instead of Pro Photo or Godox or whatever. But there's been sort of like, that the bar for entry for that, I think, got high for a lot of people. And then you had all the people who were like, I'm a natural light photographer, I'm afraid of flash, or I don't want to learn it. Like I have no qualms about people who are natural light photographers. If that's like, I just interviewed somebody who's like talking about how they know how to use studio lights and everything, but for how they do everything is just, it makes more sense to use natural light, and they use huge reflectors and diffusers and things to like, instead of lights. Good for them. They know how to manipulate the light.
Right.
There's, I think what we're experiencing, what you're talking about, is a segment of people who were kind of afraid of flash and didn't know how to do it. And there's got to be like a way to introduce people to this that's not scary, because there's a lot. It's another tool in your toolbox. But this sort of like, I don't want to do flash. Okay, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to put it on my camera and I'm just going to point it directly at people because I don't know like how to do it off camera or to bounce it and whatever. And you even saw like Godox. I don't know if you saw these like last year or 2 years ago, came out with these single pin. They're not TTL, like retro flashes, which are kind of meant for either like rangefinder cameras or whatever, but they look like stuff that like Ouija would have been using, or like, these things that like they're.
I was like, are they like sun packs or whatever? Like
kind of. One of them has like the fold out, looks like a seashell, like reflector. That just like spin. You spin it out, and like behind it comes like a little half dome behind the bulb, and I'm just like, why are they doing this? And then like I started to notice this sort of increase in people that style of flash, and it's because
because photographers will buy anything,
right? That's I mean, and it's $100, and I thought about it.
And I'm a photographer. That's what I'm saying. I'm a photographer. Photographers will buy anything.
Well, and I was thinking about it honestly for my film cameras, my like old film cameras that TTL is not going to work, or I don't think they'll even signal. I've got a single pin transceiver, I think, that works with them. But like my really old, like Minolta film cameras, I was like, that kind of goes with those. I mean, I could use that like just for fun. Like, it's $100, whatever. But like I was seeing more and more of when I started seeing these photos, it's not just those, but like people getting a real simple little speed light and putting it on their camera and pointing it directly at people. That's just kind of like how they're going, because I don't know.
So it's funny that you said about your Minolta film cameras, because I have a Nikon F100, right? Or Nikon for those people. And so the reason why I got that F100 was because that was I think the earliest of the first ones that actually had the TTL pattern on the film camera. So that way that when I was cheating, I would use my digital Nikon to actually meter off and set up everything.
I still do that.
I can set it right. I can set it back, and I know that it will work. And so I can do it with my Pro Photo and everything else, and because it won't send out the same signal. But when you say it about Godox coming out with these smaller cameras or smaller lights, I will say this: a lot of the R&D, and we always say like a lot of the R&D comes from companies like Profoto or Brown Color or whatnot. And then Godox takes it in and does what it is. They put it in the hands of the masses. And like I told you before we started, I had a casualty. I had a loss, a theft in my studio. And replacing lights, one of them, like I have my Profotos and I have my flash points. And for the wedding that I have come up this weekend, I could have rented lights. I said, nope, the Godox or the flash points are cheap enough that I can go on Amazon or go on Adorama and say, hey, you know what, let me go grab this. And $500 later, 2 days later, they're in my box and we're ready to go. The question, some of the things, and I know photographers are going to hate me for this, when we talk about color shifts, because this is a big thing that pro photo photographers and Godox photographers argue about is the color shift, because pro photos usually don't have color shift.
Right. Until you put a much tighter color range.
Until you put a pro photo next to a brown color, and then you start seeing all this color shift that's in the pro photo, right? So, like I said, don't even put a Godox. But the thing about it is, customers for the most part don't even notice that color shift. And if you can put a gel, a CTO gel, or whatever on your flash, and then boom, problem solved. That CTO gel costs you what, $30 for magnetic gel?
If that.
And so now you're in
full sheet, yeah.
So now you're in there for less than $300 compared to a $1,200 speed light. And business wise, it's what can you give to the customer, the client, exactly what they want for the price that they want to do and the value that they're looking for. And I think that, when we start looking at, like things, like I said, the gear, the little things that they're trying to sell, accessories, are they tools? I mean, like I told you, we had this conversation last time. What's the worst photography purchase I've ever made? And I'll still say to this day, it's the Arsenal. Right? And I have one for free for anybody that wants to pay for the shipping, right? I don't even feel like throwing it in the trash because it's that, but I don't want to insult the trash. And so, so there goes that sponsor.
Yeah, so they're not gonna be having you as one of their, what the hell's the word? Representatives,
ambassadors.
Ambassador. Yeah.
So I think, like I said, I think photographers will buy anything. You should buy anything. You should buy anything that you feel that's going to make your job easier. I still have young Nuo triggers from like 2009
so do I.
In some box, right?
I've got a few of those flashes sitting around somewhere. I keep telling myself, oh, I'm gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna sell this to somebody. I'm like, nah, yeah, nobody's gonna buy that.
It's like I'm gonna give it away to some guy in high school, and I don't want some high school kid coming up to me saying like how you messed me up for life, He got these young Nuo triggers, and he thought this was the best things ever until he learned that you can get Godox for 20 cents more. So that's it. So and a little segue if I may. So like I said, I did have a loss this past week. I can't call it a break-in because it's unfortunate. There's an issue that we have. And one of the things was along the lines of, I've had gear stolen out of my studio, like my new studio that I just moved in. And there was, the first thing I tell photographers is this: get business insurance. So we're not even talking about the prevention of the theft. Business insurance is your friend. You can't afford not to have it. This is the first claim I've probably made. This is the first claim I've made since I started carrying business insurance, and I think that's about 15 years. You can shop around for most photographers and get really good business insurance for less than $800.
Yeah, I mean, I think mine is 600 a year because I've never made a claim, and I've however
Right.
long I've been on there. But yeah, it covers all my gear, liability, all that stuff. You gotta cover if you're doing this for a business, you have to cover yourself.
So let's say say $12,000 over 15 years is what I've put in my premiums and whatnot, and I just had a $20,000 loss, and so the that and it's replacement value. That's a big thing. So that's the reason why PPA doesn't count. It's replacement value, right? And so for me, it was more along the lines of like, well, hey, I had redundancy gear back at the house. I had redundancy gear in the storage that I could dig out and still do business. But the reason why I have that gear, like
That's the top gear.
It's not. I have a Bowen set. That's a 3-piece studio light set that's sitting inside of storage, and the reason why it's inside of storage is because I've been using my Profoto, my Godox,
right,
which I don't have to plug in. They're battery operated, they're battery powered, and I can take them anywhere. And so, it is so important for the liability purposes and for the loss and casualty to have good insurance. And one of the things that has helped me so far is that I did an inventory list. Now, best practices is you do an inventory list at least once a year. Take an Excel spreadsheet, put on your serial numbers, everything that's on there, put how much it costs on there. And when you're doing the inventory once a year, hey, you can go through and say, hey, what is the replacement cost? Hey, you know what? I have a Canon 1DX. Well, if I was to replace that today, I cannot buy a brand new Canon 1DX.
Right. It doesn't exist.
Probably R6 or R5 or something.
What was it when they came out? Like,
no. What's the flagship Canon right now? Because shoot with that trash.
1D2 or I mean, you got the R3, which is like the mirrorless one. They're supposed to be coming out with an R1. I keep hearing rumors that that's going to come out like sometime soon. But I've been hearing that for like a year and a half.
That's like us with a Z8.
Yeah, it's didn't you get a Z8 too?
No, I have a D810.
No, I mean, like, don't they have a Z8 too? I think they've already gone to a second.
No, the Z7. They have a Z7 too.
Okay.
And a Z6 too, but they haven't come up with a Z8. The Z8 will end up being the holy grail of Nikon cameras when it comes out, because it will have some of the things of the Z9, but not the price of the Z9. And it's going to be a slower camera, but it'll be a larger file. I think something rumored about 60 megapixel type sizing. But if it's not 16-bit, I don't care. So, but the thing about it is that, that's what they would replace it with. My D810 replaced today would equate to a Z7 II or a Z8 if they came out with it. And, that also is part of that casualty loss thing. It's a forced upgrade, forced migration sometimes. The problem I have, and you may have seen my video on the DF, which is my favorite camera of all time that Nikon has ever made. It is considered a modern collectible. It was about $3,000 brand new. If you find one on a refurbed site for Nikon, you'll find about $2,200. I think they dropped to about $1,500 at the lowest prices, and now they've been creeping up in the after sale market. And that came out in 2013. Put in perspective, the D810 in 2015 was about $3,600 ish when it came out, and right now you can probably find them for $800.
Yeah, the replacement value is just like I always update mine every year with my insurance company, and I'll be sitting there going like, oh, yeah, okay, how much is it? Do I even want to insure this anymore? Because it makes no sense, because if that gets destroyed or stolen or whatever, like it's not even the cost of it's not even worth the cost of my deductible, like to replace it. And I'm like, I know I spent a few $1,000s on it when I got it, but now it's the replacement value is 300 or whatever it is. Like,
Well, that's why you get the actual replacement, not the depreciation value, because like my DF, I can't replace it. And it's the only camera, for those who are listening, that Nikon has made that is able to take all of the old manual AI lenses and the new, well, it can't take the Z lenses, but all the F mount lenses. And that was what made it so special. I had a lens that was in the kit, a 1962 K lens, Nikon, which 85 1.8, but it was sharp edge to edge, the slight yellowing, but the character of that lens was just amazing. Like it's like shooting with a Zeiss type thing when you talk about characters. So
yeah, I mean, like my old, like I wish that I could use my old Minolta lenses on bodies now. Geez, like I didn't know how good I had. Like I got those when I was in high school. My mom bought those for me at an estate sale, not even knowing, like, just because I liked photography. She's like, "Here, I found these. And it's $20. Here you go." And it's like 2 cameras. I have 4 lenses. I've got like a 135 f2 and like a 50 1.4 and like whatever. Just like some of those are actually, I think the 135 is a 1.8, which is insane. Like, yeah, like thinking about like that low, but yeah, like when you think about these, I looked it up. The current flagship DSLR, since there isn't technically one, a mirrorless one yet, is the 1DX3, and that's 6,500 for the Canon.
And see, and that's kind of what you would have to replace it with. That's what, as far as the insurance goes, that's what you would have to replace it with. But I'm pretty sure it's more technologically advanced than that 10-year-old camera that you were using. And you're
yes.
like, okay. So, that was one of those things to where I encourage, doing that once a year inventory, because it's just a one-time thing. Doing that, making sure the insurance, because for the most part, insurance is really important, probably for me and you, not more so for loss, but more so for liability purposes. Like, hey, let me have that 1 million or 2 million or whatever liability on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
because it's just some venues that won't have it.
Here's something I think that people don't understand as well. Like a lot of times we talk about liability insurance in respect to wedding photography, because you need it to get into certain venues, whatever, you need to have a certain amount. But if you want to be a commercial photographer, if you want to be doing corporate headshots and you're going into the offices, the office buildings require you to have a certificate of insurance so that you can give them, that, so that you are allowed to take your equipment into their office building. That's another instance of where you need liability insurance. And yeah, honestly, I'm not wanting the insurance for my gear, but yes, I would rather have to spend $20,000 out of pocket to replace my gear than $2 million out of my pocket to cover liability.
And something as stupid as, so in Miami, I think I told you this maybe 6 or 7 years ago on one of our podcasts. So it's been that long.
Almost. I think we just talked about stuff then.
You can get a permit, a film permit. You need a film permit to shoot in Miami.
Yeah.
Right. And the film permit is free, but you have to have your insurance.
Yeah.
If you get caught not filming or not having a film permit, then you pay the fine. And the fine, I think at one time was like around 200 or something. It could be more or less, but there's a fine that's associated with not having a free permit. And
yeah,
you figure this, if you're going to shoot out there 3 or 4 times, that's your year's worth of insurance.
3 times and either 4, 3 or 4.
And so
in New York, their rules are kind of weird. Like they require a permit if you have more than 8 people. I think it used to be 8 people, whatever it was. There's a number, or if you're blocking foot traffic. So if you have more than 8 people, or you're like going to get in the way of people, getting on their way to work, then you had to have a permit. And then it was just like sort of based on, like, and you had to pay for that. And it depended on where you were going to do it and when you were going to do it. Yeah. But you always had to have liability insurance, regardless of, how big your shoot was. Hey there, listeners. Have you ever tried Audible? You might be thinking to yourself that it's just audiobooks, but it's so much more. It includes things like sleep tracks, meditation programs, podcasts like the one you're listening to right now. You like listening to stuff, right? And much, much more. I've had a lot of people tell me that I should get into narrating audiobooks. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Whether I do or not, you can get a free 30-day trial to Audible Premium Plus or 3 months if you are an Amazon Prime member if you head to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/audible. Get access to Audible's entire catalog of bestsellers and new releases. What are you waiting for? Click in the episode notes and hit that link and start your free trial today.
That's enough about that. So, what else would you like to talk about today? We talked about
AI.
AI. We did AI. Allen Iverson. He was a great basketball player, one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Virginia. Right. Didn't like going to practice though.
No, doesn't like to practice. He had a bit of an attitude. Some people would say. I don't know why he always ends up. I see these memes of like Iverson ended up in like the LeBron, Kobe, Jordan discussion. They're like, oh, why isn't Iverson in there? I'm like, I don't know. Allen was great, but I don't know if I'd put him up there with those guys.
He beat, it's because he carried the 76ers to the finals, and he prevented the Lakers by himself pretty much from having an undefeated, becoming the team that would sweep the finals, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So he did that. But I don't think that was the answer.
No.
You were looking for.
I'm talking about artificial intelligence.
Because you get it, AI is the answer. Anyway.
Yes. I don't think that was the answer.
So artificial intelligence.
We did a whole, I have an episode that's coming out after this will come out because I want to get you in for before WPPI starts. But we just done an episode about, or recorded an episode about AI when it comes to like culling and in editing and how it's being used in ways that people don't really even understand. In editing software like Photoshop, there are things that you can do in Photoshop like content aware fill. People don't realize it's artificial intelligence that's powered that, and it's been around for a little while, but it keeps getting better. But like there are ways that artificial intelligence has been in use. You were telling me about using artificial intelligence for writing blog posts.
Yes. So I am a big fan. So I'm a big fan of the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. I do think Skynet is going to go live one of these days. I do live in a state where we do have robot police officers. Even when I was in Vegas, they do have some of the hotels have robot security guards.
Are you kidding me?
I kid you not, that rove the grounds, and kind of like a Roomba, but still, if you have a Roomba in your house, that is AI.
It's watching.
Because the Roomba is watching, it's learning, it learns the past, it learns. So when it comes to, like, let's say, for example, culling, and one of my sponsors, which is Pictage.com, which is a great place that you can get culling services and editing services. In reality, I still use them for a lot of my heavy lifting. But I use Aftershoot. I'm a big fan of Aftershoot. I've been using Aftershoot, I think, for now going on 2 years now, maybe 3 years, or not 2 years, 2.5 years. And I think Aftershoot is amazing. And it's an AI program. Is it 100% perfect? No. But does it reduce my workload from a 2-hour call? Even if I'm taking a 2-hour call and not making it a 15-minute call, and then taking that call and sending it to Pixera, right? Then that made my job easier because that's what I would have done
right
before I sent it out to Pixera, and then have Pixera do all their editing. Now you have companies like Fundy and also Aftershoot who have AI editing in their software, which they are doing more than just presets using Lightroom. They're actually doing certain things. They still can't take wrinkles out of clothes yet, so until they can do that, they're trash. But the purpose of AI, in my opinion, is to be a tool. And if you're using autofocus, iFocus, all that's in your camera, that's AI.
Yeah, those
right?
are just tools.
You don't, just because you got a A9. I hope it's an A9 or maybe A1. Whatever that badass
A1
Sony
is
camera
the
is.
the A1 is the alpha, the
Right.
the primo one.
Well, whatever one it is that it can track the eye of a mosquito and do 3,000 shots a second. That one right there is still using AI, right?
Yes,
It's
machine learning.
The predictive when we used to have when you put it on that continuous focus and the camera is actually trying to it's gauging the speed of somebody walking.
Servo.
That is AI, right? That it's rudimentary.
Yeah.
But so now we talk about like things like Chat GPT, Lensa was a big thing that was going around. Everybody changing their profile shots, which the conspiracy theorist to me thinks that they're just capturing your face for facial recognition.
What they're doing, I think, you think it's for facial recognition. I think that they're using it to increase their data set for more faces that they can create. Like they're capturing your face to use in further stuff, which is there's also a big one going around on because Lensa you had to pay $10 or something for. There was one that was going around for free on TikTok, and all the white people kept going, "This doesn't look anything like me," and either saying, "Oh, this doesn't look like me." And we get more into this in the episode that I did focusing just on AI. But I was like, it's because the data set was all South Asian, like India, Pakistan. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't look like you.
Well, that was the issue with a lot of facial recognition for the government when they're talking, because a lot of airports now are going to facial recognition for the TSA checkpoint.
Yeah, they did. I had that happen to me over the holidays. Like they just like go ahead walk through, or not over the holidays, like last month, and we went out of the country. We were coming back in, and they were like, "Just walk through. There's a camera." And I was like, "What?" Like it was at customs, and like they just said, "Go ahead and walk through. That it'll scan you." And I was like, "All right, okay."
And we're tripping about this over here. 10 years ago, they were doing that in Dubai, and so like where it has all it is that the data set increases to increase the accuracy. The challenge is that with like how you say Southeast Asian in the US, a lot of the AI originally for facial recognition was based on white males. And so females, minorities, they would have such a high error and hit rate. I think the AI that we have now, and I'm one of those people that I'm waiting for Adobe to come up with a solution to put inside of, because like i.e. fixing wrinkled clothes without me having to go into After Effects. And so the challenge or using the what's called frequency separation, I know, but Lightroom, the select sky, select subject,
stuff.
like you said, the content aware, expanding backgrounds, right? Like the best thing 5 years ago, you could expand the background in Photoshop.
Yeah.
So now you can get that little 5-foot background paper, which can fit in anywhere.
My savage paper that's only like
I was like,
60
here we
inches.
go. Like you can get this one right here, and
one that'll actually fit in a car to take home, as opposed to a 10-footer.
The challenge comes back to that. I think that when it comes to AI, I think photographers, at least in our world, it has to be maintained as a tool to make your job easier. So, or you'll end up becoming Tangent. Great movie that I watched this week.
Megan?
No. Which was We Have a Ghost.
Yes, I watched that as well.
And the one thing that impressed me more than anything else is, I guess the kid is like 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
The way he's driving this car, right?
Yeah.
This kid is doing J-turns and everything like that. And I'm like, you don't learn that in driver's ed. And so, the ability to drive standard shift, stick shift, in the US today, I think is something whereas if you don't have to do it for a job, I think it's below 19% of the people driving or something like that know how to use a stick shift.
And I will bet money that the The ones that do know how are either of a certain age or work in either in the military or on a farm.
Or motorcycle riders,
Yeah,
because motorcycle riders are probably the last
the
because they
clutch.
understand the mechanics of a stick. They may not have the muscle memory, but a lot of e-bikes are coming out, and you're getting these single gear e-bikes. So now you're gonna be riding a motorcycle and you don't even have to shift. Like Honda has a scooter that is amazing. So like it has a top speed of like 90 miles an hour, or whatever, and it's a scooter a 3-gear automatic. And so I think that for us as photographers to be able to say, okay, I know what I want to do, what I want to achieve. It's a difference between going in program mode and manual mode. And to understand that, hey, there's a reason why I may go into aperture priority or shutter priority, TV, or whatever you can and people call it.
Yes, TV.
Right. And there's a reason why those exist. But if you know how to manipulate the functions,
Right.
then that makes it easier. And I think that's where the guys who are really good making this AI art, guys that have entered in competitions and have won competitions because they mastered the function of actually entering the prompts.
Right. Or using it along with original pieces that they have. Like I've seen a lot of people who are able to, work with their own photos or artwork. And then like, I'm going to expand this or do something to alter it or create more with it as like using it as a tool to expand upon what they've already created. I think that's great. I start to have issues with, the lowering the bar for quote unquote creativity to where people think like I'm an artist because I just like typed in like the thing like, and it just spits out this, bland, whatever image that looks just like pretty much everybody else's AI created art. And, what is that? What are we doing at that point? Like, are we just, devaluing the people who can actually create stuff? And part of the conversation was, is it ethical? Because there were things that they were doing, like, I can't remember who the artist was, but he died. And like the next day, like one of the learning platforms was receiving like 300,000 inquiries in 15 minutes for creating art in the style of this artist. And they're like, there's no way that the users were doing that. That was obviously whoever the programmers were, where it's like, oh, we want to like do this. And like people are going to eventually want this. And now he's no longer around. So
let me sell more or bring it up. On the flip side, using the tool like ChatGPT, and there are many other AI writing software platforms, but I'm going to use ChatGPT for the sake of this conversation because it's one that a lot of us are familiar with. And if you're not familiar, you should be familiar with it. I have had it. You asked me the other day, so your blog post, I don't know if you ran my blog post through an AI, but I have one blog post that I think it's one, maybe two, but there's one that I wrote specifically through the AI blog, the ChatGPT, and then I had to give it a prompt, and I gave it a prompt about, I don't know, maybe a 100 or 200 word prompt. So it was actually a significant prompt of what I told it to do. It spit out a blog for me in less than 15 seconds. I was filing, hopefully I don't get in trouble for this, filing my disability claim, right, with the VA, right? And one of the things that helps veterans get their disability or hurts them is when they don't file a personal statement to say, hey, this is how this disability is affecting me in my life, right? And I go in there and say, hey, write me a personal statement and then talk about this, talk about, how it's reoccurring, it's daily, how I have to take medication, how I have to miss work, and I gave it all its prompts.
Right.
And then it took all of its information, and it took about a minute and a half. It wrote me something to where I could start with that would be more than what I would have written in, a day or 2 days.
Right. By yourself. And like, I think that can really help people. That's a tool that can help people especially when it comes to blog post writing, because I hate sitting down and like, I know what I want to write about, but I don't want to like sit down and like, if I can go through something and just edit it and be like, oh yeah, this is good. Okay. Or I change the wording here, make it sound more like my voice or whatever. But, yeah, I can totally understand that. And I think that that's another way of using tools to work smarter, not harder. The
I wish.
As far as the VA goes, just you don't want to hear this was not service related.
Right, exactly. And I want the other side of it is that I wish I could put affiliate links, and I wish I could attach my affiliate links when it's doing its blog links or when it's doing the blog.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, and include affiliate links from Amazon. Here is this.
Yeah,
right?
on this.
Then it'd be,
yeah. No, come on, that's going to take you like 5 minutes to go through and attach them in this right spot. It's gonna, man. I gotta start using AI to write blog posts because, like more content for the nerdy photographer and for my photography stuff.
I say where it helps at though is when it comes down to what is the thing called? When it comes down to background information. I used to hate like. I never want my blog to be like a recipe blog where you learn. Exactly. Hey, when I was 6 years old, my grandma used to make some cornflakes, and it was the most amazing cornflakes that I ever had. And so Cornelius Rooster is the mascot of cornflakes. And I'm not talking about like Tony the Tiger. I'm talking about Cornelius Rooster, right? Mm-hmm. And it was originally made by Kellogg because it's supposed to be a sexual depressant and everything like that. And I don't want that. Just tell me that I need cornflakes, a bowl, milk, and a spoon. And I think that to give sometimes the background texture, you can once you know what prompts you want, the voice of the AI, because you can say, hey, write me a pleasant sounding, or you can I've had it write LinkedIn. So if any of you, like LinkedIn has their LinkedIn jobs similar to a Thumbtack or whatever, great place for it. I've had it write me proposals for LinkedIn. And I'm like, man, this is a great canned proposal right here. I'm going to keep this. And now this is what I'm going to use for everything else.
It's going to be a boilerplate for future stuff.
It just makes your job easier. And I think that's kind of what we look forward to, is what can make our job easier with that.
So that you can spend your time doing things that, it depends on what you want to spend your time doing. For a lot of people, it's like, I don't want to spend my time culling and just like looking through pictures. So yeah, I can use this, or I don't want to spend my time writing a long blog post. Like I'm happy to go through and edit it and like put something together. Or there might be certain things that I'm going to spend my time writing this particular one. And like I said, from start to finish needs to be, my sole attention. But like, if you can save yourself time I used to talk about this when it came to like CRM software, whatever you use, like how much time it saves you over the course of a year, it's worth it. It's like, imagine paying yourself, if you're paying yourself money, like think what you are, if you're running your own business, how much is your time worth? And especially if you're a solo, whatever, if you have a team of people, you should definitely be using it because you can coordinate between everybody. But just having that time back to spend doing other things, I would spend hundreds of hours a year on like the bookkeeping and tracking the leads and, whatever, writing the contracts out every time. Even though I had the boilerplate, I just had to fill in things. And that allows you to just punch in, here are the variables, their names and whatever, and I don't have to fill out any of the other stuff. It's just like it puts the contract together for me. Like those sorts of things save you time. AI can save you time, but knowing how to use it properly is also part of it. Like, what you're saying, what prompts you start to figure out what prompts to use, whether it's, for ChatGPT or some sort of art creation, as opposed to culling software. I think that people, it's the way of the world. It's just the steamroller is coming. Right. And it's more and more likely that, this stuff is just going to take up a big portion of automation. Is the we had the Industrial Revolution that reduced the amount of people who were like laboring on stuff in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is the next wave of automation.
And I think that's why we a lot of us were, because you're old enough to remember when we went from film to digital, and the digital cameras were just crappy, right?
Yeah,
like
there was no no comparison in the amount in the quality level.
But the early adopters of digital, especially when it came to digital manipulation, i.e. Photoshop and other those tools, by the time 2003, 2004, 2005 came around, they already leaps and bounds by the guys that were still using like F6s, right? Nikon F6 film cameras, because now you had a camera that you could put in an 8 gigabyte card in and get 1,000 images out of it, right?
Right.
And so, to say with machine learning and AI now, we're at the point to where, yeah, we have issues with the fingers, but the fingers can always get better.
Right.
Right. I watched a video this morning from one of the YouTubers that picks something, right? But a guy with really nice eyebrows and ears. But he was doing an AI replacement thing where the person's in a relationship, like he has his girlfriend right here.
Yeah.
And he used the lasso tool in Photoshop, came around her, removed subject.
I've seen this video.
Put it inside DALL-E.
Yeah.
Went in DALL-E and said, "Hey, bearded man, put it in the right prompt," and it came back out with the guy looking like a Tinder shot. You know what I mean? And that one started with a good photo. I think one of the things that, and I use this to wrap us up with this one. I think one of the things that we lose sight of when we get, as photographers, when we get good tools, is is the customer going to get? How does the customer benefit from these new tools?
Right.
What kind of experience are we going to increase? What kind of product are we going to give? Are we giving them a better product? And I think what ends up happening with a lot of us, when, like I said, a lot of those photographers, is that, oh, I got this new Gary Fong dome with the splash, and I can bounce it off the sky and whatever, right? Or I got this new, what's that damn thing called? This new arsenal, right? And I can take a time lapse. But at the end of the day, like when you're using the AI clone software, okay, you know what? I'm shooting mirrorless. So the images that I'm shooting should be properly exposed and for the most part properly focused and everything else. Okay, I can go into put all the color treatments on it right away. I can edit this, and in less than an hour, 2 hours, my wedding is 90% complete towards delivery. And if I needed to do we're on cruise and I'm doing a travel wedding, and I want to make a point to turn this around by the time we pull into port, AI allows me to do that. If I really wanted to be really about it, I can say, okay, you know what, we're on a 5-day cruise. I put in all the information, the wedding, the shot of everything. And when we get back into port, hey, are you available for lunch tomorrow? Sure, let's go. Here's your album proofs of what your album's going to look like. And now that customer, especially if you're a travel photographer, you're now taking a 2 or 3 or 4 week process. And now AI is making it to where it's just a week. So you go on that cruise once a week. And if you're one of those guys and that's what you want to focus on, especially if you're up in New York and you'd rather be in Miami right now, you can be like, hey, during the winter, I only do, during the summer, I do New York weddings. During the winter, I do only travel weddings.
Right.
And this is the rate. And you leave on your Monday, come back on your Friday, you're done.
It's one of those things like we were saying, like originally when you said, there's a difference between the $500 photographer and the $5,000 photographer. And the $5,000 photographer is trying to give you the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And now they can spend more time giving you the experience as opposed to spending it on other stuff. Like, yeah, these things can be used to. Hey, photographers, have you noticed how the life goes out of your subject's eyes when you tell them how to pose? You say, stand there, put your arm like this. It gets even worse when you have subjects who are a bit shy or introverted. If you want to create authentic, emotional photos, my Let's Be Real unposed photography prompts will help you create interactions that your clients will remember when they look back on their photos for years. I've developed my unposed photography prompts over 20 years, taking pictures of people using my own self-conscious nature to help my clients who felt that they were unphotogenic. From couple sessions to weddings and family portraits, these prompts will help you get more dynamic and natural photos with your subjects. And right now, you can get 25% off if you use the code POD25P. That's POD, P-O-D, 25P, all uppercase. Just go to nerdyphotographer.com and find the prompts in our store. Stop posing and start prompting. Hey, and now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death. And I think that's a good place for us to wrap it up for this particular episode. It's time for a little useless information. In 2016, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart sold more CDs than Beyonce. Thoughts? Are people coming for Mozart? Are they going to say that Mozart did not deserve, that Beyonce deserved to sell more CDs than Mozart? Thoughts?
So my response to that would be this. Beyonce fans do not listen to CDs, and the fan that does listen to CDs is more than likely along the lines of an older person, probably somebody who has a Yahoo or an AOL account, maybe even still a Hotmail or something like that, because it is one of those things to where it's not, you're not listening to it. This goes back to the technology. Beyonce streams.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this, where I got this from, I'm not sure if this was based on streaming or just like actual physical CD sales. So I'm not sure if this was like purchases of or what. I need to look at that.
I keep my post there. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I would have went from. Is like, well, you know, is it more along the lines of the media? That's like if I said that, you know, hey, Kenny Rogers sold more cassette tapes in 2009 than anybody else. It's like, well, somebody that's driving around in their 1984 truck, right?
Right.
Needs to buy two.
Doesn't want to like ever run out of, the gambler, on tape. Leighton, thanks a lot for coming on. Let everybody know where they can find you.
So you can find me in the club, sipping on a bottle of Bud. No, sorry. Hopefully you get. You can find me on Instagram at Leighton D Photo, LEIGHTON Photo, on the Twitter under at Leighton D Photo, or you can follow me personally at Leighton D. And as always, you can find me at LeightonD.com or at the buffet in Caesars.
I'll include all of those links in the episode notes. Enjoy WPPI, my friend, and hope you come back soon.
I will, and like a fat kid in dodgeball. I'm out.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Leighton DaCosta. Be sure to say hi to him if you notice him around WPPI next week. You can also find all of his links in the episode notes. While you're clicking on things, be sure to subscribe to the Nerdy Photographer podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And please consider leaving us a review. They really help us bring in new listeners. Between episodes, you can follow along on social media at The Nerdy Photo on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That's at The Nerdy Photo. There are more fun and informative things happening on the socials. You don't want to miss out. Now I'm off to my first session at the conference. What was that?
No ticket.
Well, I'm glad we got my ticket situation sorted out. Until next time, folks, stay safe and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.